Hey y'all, welcome to the Share the Health podcast with your co-hosts, Amy, Caitlin, and Mariah.
This podcast is for women who feel frustrated by the failures of the traditional healthcare system and are looking for solutions.
We'll be diving into all things women's health, being a female business owner, and life as a woman. Now let's get into today's episode. Okay, so how did we even get connected, guys?
Yeah, okay, let's take it back because I can't even remember. Sorry.
Well, I know, Amy, I remember we went for a walk on the beach.
Yes, we went on a walk, but I texted you because we got put into this massive text group together, and you said that you were in Utah, and my now husband was moving to Wilmington from Utah also, like the same month.
Yes.
And that was crazy.
And then, Mariah, where did you come in?
I think somehow I found Amy on socials, and then we ended up meeting for coffee, and then you and I got introduced with the Business Babes group.
Yes,
I think.
the three of us went to
Up
that.
at Why Not?
Oh, yeah.
So uncomfortable.
I know.
I was like, oh, Caitlin and Mariah like need to meet each other, and I was like, ooh, I'm gonna invite them to this networking thing at this wine bar, and then I was like an hour late, and you guys were like talking to each other.
And it was a great intro.
It was a great way for us to like meet and get connected because clearly
Nobody else was connecting. No.
Very uncomfortable. It was like the three of us in a room, and everybody else was in another room.
Yeah.
Connecting at least. So a beautiful story, really.
Yeah.
And then this was born.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, and I also feel like social media was a big part of it too, just being in the health and wellness field, all three of us, which we'll get into what we do. But I think having the same vision and same uncomfortable feelings at many experiences in Wilmington, the birth of a new experience for healthcare and wellness.
Yeah, and Amy, I say this all the time, but you're the only reason why I even dove into social media. I was so against it when we met, but when we went on that walk, you're like, no, like it's actually working for me, and I feel like I can connect and educate patients, so it's worth it. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna give this a try. I'll go for it.
And now you're the social media queen.
I think you're still the queen.
I don't know. I don't think so.
I will never be at that level.
Yeah, Mariah's like, I'm gonna just
I'm so anti-social media.
Oh my gosh. Well, I guess like we can tie like what do you guys, I mean obviously I know, but like what do you guys do? Like what do you guys post about?
On socials? Events. That is pretty much what I have up there for Women in Strength. We don't do much else than that. We really need to get more into the educational side of things, but
Yeah.
working towards that slowly.
Yeah. Caitlin?
Yeah, I feel like mine is more on the education side of things, and then I've been posting lots of recipes and like different cooking skills and hacks and things to make things easier in the kitchen. And honestly, it's been really fun for me because it's forcing me to cook a little bit more, which my husband has like fully took that over for a while. So I've actually kind of enjoyed like the back end side of that.
Yeah, I love your recipes. I love watching you like prepare everything. Caitlin's a dietitian. And then I feel like for us, I own Pelvic Prescription, Physical Therapy and Wellness, and I feel like it's mostly silly stuff, actually. Like we try to be educational with like some things, I think. You guys can correct me if from like what you
I feel like it's educational.
Yeah,
Okay.
I feel like you keep it fun while you're educating people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the goal. Okay, good. I just noticed the funny stuff does a lot better.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
really
I think I miss
eye-catching.
doing some of the funny stuff a little bit. Like, sometimes I feel like I'm too much on the educational side of things.
Yeah. Well, you need both.
Yep,
I
it's a
like
bad.
I like your series.
My
Oh
shit that pisses me off.
yeah, shit that pisses you off. I've thought about like copying it and doing like a version for pelvic floor therapy.
You can. I won't be upset.
Okay, cool. I was gonna ask you about that, but um, yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I guess like we just really want to like, what is the reason for us getting together like this?
To share more with the community.
To share the health. Share.
Yes, to share the health.
Which was a term
Yeah.
that Stephen came up with, right? Caitlin's husband.
Yeah, he's really good with like that creativity, which I struggle with. So I'm glad the name has stuck.
Yeah, now it's a podcast.
Yes. So we have the networking group, Share the Health, for female business owners in the health and wellness space.
Yeah. Why did we even start this?
Because we were
Um,
all so frustrated going to other networking events and
yes.
not finding any healthcare providers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, with how big our area is, you would think that there would be some sort of networking group specifically for what, not specifically for what we do, but more health focused and not in like the tech side of health and whatnot, or the sales side of health and medical.
Yeah.
Um,
And there's a mental health therapy
mhm.
networking group also, but like that's so specific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We wanted something a little bit more broad to connect like referral partners with each other.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I feel like we all had our fair share of very uncomfortable experiences. And we tried so hard to like be like, oh, well, maybe this is what we were looking for, you know. And I remember we met at a coffee shop together and brainstormed what we wanted Share the Health to even be.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
now a year
over a year
later,
ago.
yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. But I do feel like, some of the feedback that we've gotten from some of like the women in our Share the Health group. So we are all women business owners in health and wellness businesses. And I feel like all the feedback that we got is that it's more of like a support group and like how can we support and elevate each other and also help reach people that like need our help.
Yeah, I love it because I feel like I get to know everybody so well. And so even if we have multiple pelvic floor therapists, then I know each person's personality. So when I have a patient that needs pelvic floor therapy, I know where to send them based off of their individual needs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, because I know other networking groups limit who can come into the group where it's only like one type
Right.
of.
I was actually talking to someone about that the other day where he got kicked out of the group because whoever invited him in was buddies with another physical therapist and he was like, this is competition. We can't have you in here. So since you're not friends with us, goodbye.
Oh
I
my
was like,
God.
are you serious? Like, there was so much to go around Wilmington that it shouldn't come down to a competition like that, especially because different physical therapists, personal trainers, dietitians, like we all focus on different like realms within that profession. So I might be able to work with women who want fat loss or to just learn form and whatever, whereas other women want more of that HIIT training. I don't mess with that, so I'll refer them out to somebody else that does train in that style. Same with you guys. Like, you know what you work well with and you know what someone else will work well with. So,
Yeah, I totally agree. Because I remember we sat down and we asked the question. We were like, okay, do we want this to be only like one person from each specialty can be in it? And then I remember we were like, okay, no, let's not do that for like that very reason. And like for pelvic prescription, like our, main demographic is like young moms who like want to like exercise and get back moving in their bodies and like love doing that, and pelvic floor therapy, I feel like people think it's like only like one thing. But it encompasses like so many different types of people that need it that it's actually like very broad. And a lot of pelvic PTs have different specialties, even like within pelvic therapy.
That's so interesting. I didn't know that. But
Mhm.
it makes sense. Like when even from your post the other day of like what do you want more information on? I was like, oh, there's so much of this and you could even niche down further.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's like pelvic pain, like endometriosis, IC, pregnancy postpartum, men's pelvic health. Like there's so much. And it's funny because I posted that and I will say the highest results it was pregnancy postpartum. And I was like, oh well, I mean, I guess that is who most of our followers are. So that makes sense. But
Yeah.
not many people voted for the other stuff. And I was like, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, you're targeting your right people then.
Yeah, exactly. So that's great. Um, yeah. Caitlin, what do you feel like is your kind of specialty within dietetics, nutrition then?
Yeah, so we are totally in the perinatal health space. So from fertility through pregnancy and then postpartum. And there's that like immediate postpartum stage, like the rough fourth trimester and challenges with breastfeeding. But to me, postpartum is however long you feel like you're still postpartum. So I have people come to us that are, 1 to 2 years postpartum and they just don't feel like themselves. And so then getting down to the root cause of what's making you not feel like yourself and how can we get you feeling better. And oftentimes it's people who are wanting to then get pregnant and have a second kid. And they thought that they would be feeling ready by a year and a half postpartum, and they're just not ready yet.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like really important. I feel like we all have a very similar ideal like person that we like, obviously we'll help everyone, but um kind of have a niche. And then Mariah, since your business is like women in strength, obviously it's like women.
Yes. Yeah. Primarily female focused. We still do have one male client, grandfathered in from our last location. Um, but yeah, female focus, focusing on strength training, changing the mindset of um, using weights is going to make you bulky, like trying to get people to understand that doing resistance training is what is ultimately going to help them hit their goals as far as losing that body fat and building strength and being strong throughout their entire life cycle, as well as making lifestyle changes. So what they're doing in the gym also translates out inside life as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, I think like for all of us, you can't just go to the gym. You can't just go and do, stuff in PT. This is stuff that it needs to be a lifestyle
Right.
change.
Exactly. Like it all goes together. And I don't think a lot of people connect the dots, that I think they just think, oh, I can do this and everything else will fall into place. And it's like, no, you've got to at least have two or three of those things connecting the dots together. And then that's when you'll really start seeing the improvement, not just one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really liked how you said like how you want to, kind of bust the myth of like lifting weights will make you bulky, like that's one of those. I mean, I think nowadays that's kind of gone away, but like
It's
for
starting to change. Um, but at the same time, we still have women in here like, I don't want to look like you, Mariah. I'm like, I am I've trained myself for years to look this way, and that is not how I expect my clients to want to look. That's not how I train them. So it's just it's changing that mindset. And same thing with like a lot of our women are in their 40s and 50s, and they're trying to chase that size zero and skinny legs and like just having this very model-esque look. And it's like, let's just get you healthy before we try to even achieve something like that.
yeah, yeah. Do you feel like that's like a generational thing?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like even though we specialize in like pregnancy postpartum physical therapy, we do get a lot of patients who are like perimenopausal, which
Mhm.
does kind of fall into pelvic rehab just because of all the like vulvar changes and bladder and bowel changes during that time of life. But I do feel like we kind of encounter, like with that generation, an issue with them being comfortable with pelvic therapy. Like a lot of our like younger clients are very like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm gonna tell everybody. I'm gonna post about this on social media. And then like our perimenopausal clients, like we'll give them a t-shirt, at their like fourth visit, and then they're like, well, I'm never gonna wear this. I don't want anyone to know that I'm doing this. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's definitely that generation and the time frame that they grew up with. Because like nobody talked about it. It was always hushed. It was like taboo to talk about anything female health, menopause, pelvic floor. Um, and it's discussions that we have here as well. I mean, because we train everyone from college age up through their 80s. So we see a very wide range of people. And some of our ladies come in and they feel embarrassed to talk about it. It's like we're all women here. This is an open area. Like we can hop in the office if you don't want anyone else hearing about it, but still like there's no judgment here. We're
Yeah.
all the same to some level, and we've all gone through the same thing to some level.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like that's kind of what we hope for, like out of this podcast too, right?
Mhm. Yeah, we want people to be able to relate to what we're discussing and get something out of it and feel like
Mhm.
they are a part of something bigger and that they're not alone.
Mhm.
Yeah, and seeking care for challenges that maybe, are a little uncomfortable to talk about. I do a
Mhm.
lot of gut health stuff, and so if, I'm talking about constipation and like, tell me what your poop looks like and how often are you going? And for some people that can be really uncomfortable. So trying to break down those barriers and um yeah, help people seek the care that they need.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we get that a lot too. Like people like they'll start telling you about their sex life and then they're like, "Oh, like, and they kind of want to hold back and I'm like, "No, like I actually need to know this. So like, tell me more." Um, but yeah, I mean, I feel like for all of us, and I'll say like a lot of people, a lot of women and who've been through the healthcare system, I feel like we've all dealt with like very frustrating experiences, like at the doctor offices and whatnot. And I just hope that we can use this to prevent these like frustrations from happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear people all the time in in terms of like lab work of I go to my doctor, they run all these labs, they say everything is fine. I've had lots of patients tell me that they get put on like antidepressants or anti-anxiety meds because they're apparently if you're like having a hard time losing weight or if you're unhappy with your body and aren't feeling good and don't have a lot of energy, antidepressant is the answer, which makes no sense.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah. So then they come to me and then we, look and help them find the answers. But it's so frustrating when it's like lose some weight and take an antidepressant.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had clients have their doctors tell them to go on Ozempic instead
So
of train with us because being in here 3 days a week wasn't enough for them to be losing weight. But instead of the doctor looking at lifestyle, what their sleeping habits are, what their stress levels are, what they're eating, um, he was just like, yep, let's put you on Ozempic because nothing else is going to help you.
Mm.
Meanwhile, she eats less than 1,000 calories a day. She barely sleeps. Her stress levels are through the roof. And outside of coming in here to work out, she wasn't doing anything. It's like that's not the proper answer. And it's not going to give you the lifelong effects that you want.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously there's like a time and place for, going to primary care and everything, but
Right.
like last week I had some labs drawn and the dietitian that I'm seeing was like, "Oh, like you can go to your primary care." And I was like, "Oh, don't have one of those." Um and so she was like, or like we could just do it. And I was like, let's just do it because like, you know, I know that you guys obviously can give me a better recommendation of like maybe nutritionally or like what I need or like supplement wise, like what I need based on the lab results. Cause I've just heard so many stories about my patients that go in for labs and then everything is fine, even though maybe some things are borderline, and then that's it. But I want to know preventatively, like what do I need to do now to prevent disease like in my future?
Right.
Yeah, and not just be given a medication.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, what do I need to do with my lifestyle to make sure that I don't get diabetes and have high cholesterol and, you know, like not have inflammation in my body, which I do have. So,
Hmm. I'm right there with you.
And I think what's great about our our networking group is that we've been able to connect with so many different people in different like specialized areas, like we talked about, you know, sleep and like oral health, and like there's so many different things that go into being healthy and well. And so it's not just, like a dietitian and a personal trainer and pelvic floor. Like we need so many things. And now we have great people that we can refer the
yeah.
Wilmington women
Yeah.
to get that care.
Yeah, I've learned so much, honestly. I've met so many people that do things that I didn't even know were possible.
Hmm.
Like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing. Like now I know that if I have a patient that like struggles with this thing, now I can, you know, refer them that way. So better, better care. And that's our goal for Wilmington.
Exactly. I feel like I'm such a better provider when I can refer people out, because obviously, like, I think we're all really good at like, this is what we're good at. And then we're going to refer out to the things that we're not experts in, but we need to know who in the area is an expert in those things. And yeah, then even just learn that there are other businesses out there that can help.
Yeah, because we only went to school, trained for like whatever we do, but outside of that, like I don't know. And so much of health like issues, I feel like is there's like multiple things, obviously. Like I know for some of our patients, like if somebody is dealing with like maybe they need like mental health support, I feel like sometimes like physically they don't progress as like well just because something is like still holding them back. And so we're like big proponents on like it's a whole person situation, you know?
Yep, absolutely. Same for weight loss.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, with like mental health stuff that can, like weight loss or gut issues,
Mhm.
um, mental health can be a block for those.
Oh,
Oh
good.
yeah, absolutely.
That's cool. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's our hope and dream for this podcast to reach like lots of people and for women to be better educated and empowered to be like advocates, I think, for themselves too, you know?
Absolutely. I feel like that's what you have to do, especially more in the traditional healthcare system. You have to be able to advocate for yourself. And
Mhm.
so you have to have your own knowledge going into those appointments, which is unfortunate, but it's also really empowering to have that knowledge.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. And I do think like there is a change again generationally a little bit actually, where like maybe a certain generation does kind of take whatever their physician says as like the truth.
Right.
But I feel like this like our generation maybe does like do some research and kind of questions and like double checks to make sure that what is happening is true. Okay.
All
Well,
right.
that was awesome. This is so fun.
I think the three of us could just chat all day.
I know.
I know.
Yeah, I'm like, I can keep on going, but
My kids are still sleeping.
I know, right? My cats are kind of fighting, so
The dogs are fighting out in the studio. I don't know if you guys can hear them barking.
yeah, I heard a little bit, just a
Oh,
little.
I haven't heard them.
Oh.
And I wasn't sure if you guys could hear my cats, but you know, just ignore them. Okay, cool. Well, thank you, like everyone, for joining and listening today to our first episode. High five, guys.
Woo!